Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to week 2 with Mr. Jeff Hornung, angler alum, owner and founder of Pioneer Equipment. If you haven't gotten a chance to listen to last week's episode, dive into his story and just hear about his angler experience, how Pioneer came to be, how life as an entrepreneur looked like scrap metal and mowing lawns as a kiddo. So really thankful that he's here recording with us. So we're going to kick it off. Just before we started recording this, we were talking about paying tuition to the School of Life.
Amen.
So I'm just going to hand the mic over and let you share what that means and what it's looked like in your life.
Absolutely. I had a mentor early on in my entrepreneurship experience, and that was the phrase he used quite often. And I've very much taken that for my own when I talk to different folks about different things. You know, people hear big numbers and big success stories, whether it's me or whether it's anybody else in the program or in life. But what you don't know is how much tuition they've paid to the School of Life. That's the term and the quote that he always used to use. And you know, as we were talking about before we started recording, you know, I can honestly say I could look back, and if you gave me enough time, I could probably record and account for the time, the talent, the capital, either wasted or time and capital that was expenditured and invested with no return. I could probably come up with over $2 million that I've had in tuition to the School of Life. That's a big number. That is a gut-wrenching number for someone who fights for every dollar he ever made, but it was necessary to get us where we are today. And so sometimes, and I try to come back and do the round table, or you guys call it what now, the fireside, right?
Fireside.
Yeah, so I try to come back and I talk to folks and students who are doing that right now, and they're like, I screwed up an order. I screwed up a quote, my client's mad, my employee messed up and now I had to go fix it. And it cost me, you know, X amount of dollars, it doesn't matter. And I'm a little bit harsh line reality to these folks, but I try to tell them it's not going to be the last time. Could be the first time this has happened. It won't be the last. You will pay tuition to the School of Life. Not only as a person, but especially as an entrepreneur, because the buck stops with you. It all comes back to you. If your employee makes a mistake, you're the one that pays for it. If you make a mistake, you're the one to pay for it. But that is a concept that's tough to grab, especially in the early years of starting a business and then eventually hiring an employee. You know, you never get 100% out of somebody, and you need to be okay with that. And it's not an excuse, but it's a reason, and it's a valid reason. There will be tuition paid. There will be money lost. There's going to be time lost. There's going to be human capital that you pour into an employee for a week, a month, 5 years, it doesn't matter. And then that employee leaves your employment for whatever reason the case may be. And that's tuition. You're going to know next time. You're going to know what questions to ask in an entrance interview. You're going to know what fine print to look for in a contract. You're going to look at a job site and see what could go wrong or how could this be misinterpreted. And you're going to be super clear with your customer the next time. Mm-hmm. And it's all about an average. At the end of the day, the IRS doesn't care about one transaction. They care about all of your transactions averaged together. And that's what we try to embody at Pioneer Equipment. Every deal we touch is not a grand slam, it's not a home run. What we want is base hits. We want to send our player around the diamond every single time. Do we hit a double or a triple every once in a while? Sure, and it's great. Do we strike out sometimes? Yeah, absolutely we do. But the average at the end of the game, after 9 innings, we should be able to push our guys around the diamond X number of times.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite story?
Oh boy.
Where you have paid your tuition?
Yeah, I absolutely do. The biggest and boldest one, I can't speak to with any degree of specificity, but what I can share is the last 18 months have looked very different for my company. And the lesson I've learned, and we'll talk about the tuition, but the end goal, the lesson was you can't let anybody else call your shots for you. And 3 times in the last 18 months, I let that happen. for reasons that would have been fantastic reasons if they would have been true, but they weren't. And I was operating kind of with tunnel vision, and those reasons were not true. So the calls that those individuals and companies were making on our behalf were therefore not true, or truthful, I should say. And so it cost some time. It cost some money. That whole, I'm going to call it a debacle. We fumbled the football. Let's be perfectly clear. We got sacked in the pocket and we fumbled on about 3 different deals in a short period of time. Some bigger picture kind of stuff. And we've come out of it stronger. We've had the last 5 months has been the healthiest our company has ever been, so that's been super positive. But it was a huge tuition paid. I would wager to say close to a 6-figure tuition in about a 3-week period. All 3 things came to a head at the same time. So I can't comment on it a whole lot further than that, but there's going to be opportunities not just to make money, but to restructure, reorganize, merge, buy, sell, acquire, all different kinds of things, whether that's on a small scale or a big scale. And just because the numbers are good does not mean it's the right thing to do. And so we learned a lot about staying true as a company to what we know works and who we are. If a deal fits within that realm, absolutely. Green light, 100%. If it doesn't, it's okay to say no. And I know that's some of the things that Angler staff and I have talked about over the past 12 years of being involved. There is so much more power in the word no than there is yes. It is okay to say no. I've got friends and family in the same space as me or related industries. Some of them, we just call them bobbleheads. They just say yes to anything and everything, anything to make a buck. And that has constrained their growth. I've seen it firsthand. It's constrained their growth tenfold where they would have been if they would have said, no, we're focused over here, and just been the best in their industry at this lane. They would have been light years down the road. So we try not to do that. I got a little bit of that way about a year ago, and we're back on track now. So that's the main thing.
Yeah. So you've had a lot of success over the last couple years.
Yeah.
But I always think about you've been in it now for 10 plus years. What is something that you're constantly trying to live out that's just been hard, but that it's a lesson that you learned 12 years ago, but today it's still hard?
Yeah, the concept of saying no is always still hard to people. I think where I used to struggle so much with the concept like that is HR and employees. I like to instill a culture at my place of work hard, play hard. I like taking the employees out. We go do the axe throwing thing once a year, Christmas party, all these different things, buy lunch sometimes, margaritas at noon on a Friday when we're slow, whatever. I'm a fun boss, but when it's time to work, it's time to work.
Right.
And, if we have a customer or a client that it's 5:01 and they pull on the lot, everybody stays until they go home. I expect that. When it's time to work, it's time to work. Where I struggle on the flip side of that coin is I was raised Midwest polite. I always think everybody's got the best of intentions. Nobody's ever trying to take advantage of the situation. So sometimes I give employees more leash than I should. So what I've learned over the last, 20-something hires, retention is better now than it ever has been before. But what I've learned over the past, 8 years of actively being in business and hiring people, firing people, stealing people away from other companies that are undervalued. I'm not above that game either. But what I've learned is you have to set those expectations at the hire. You have to be so clear in not only the expectations of the hire, but the expectation of me, Jeff, as the owner. This is exactly what will happen in this situation. This is what's acceptable. This is what's not acceptable. One of the things I try to do is listen to different podcasts from people way smarter than me and grow as a leader and entrepreneur.
Right.
One of the things that Dave Ramsey says on his Entree Leadership podcast is, if you want to be a we, this is how you do that.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be a we, there's the door, because this is what we do, this is what we don't do, and that's the end of the discussion. Sometimes some people take that as being a little harsh, cruel, edgy, not kind.
Sure.
You can be kind and clear at the same time. So what we've developed now is such a crystal clear expectation of every employee's duties.
Yeah.
A crystal clear guideline to paid time off versus unpaid time off versus what's acceptable. So some of those have been tough for some people that we've hired, and they have naturally selected themselves out the door. You can be clear without being unkind. It's possible, but sometimes I still struggle with letting people push the envelope. Sounds a little too edgy, but take advantage of other people's resources. And what you can't do is you can't let that compromise the integrity of the company. 1 time is okay, 2 times is concerning, 3 times is too much. It's enough.
Yep.
Whether that's extra sick days when you're really not sick, whether that's not calling into work, whether that's leaving early, appointments, I don't know, all of these things. But we work from work. That's one thing about my industry. There is no work from home. There is not a single position on my staff where you can work from home successfully. We work from work. If you need to be gone, you need to make up the time. If you need other arrangements, we will work with you as much as we can. We will be flexible until we can't be. That's what I tell my employees. But that, to answer your initial question, that's what I still struggle with. And I didn't have that mindset when I hired my first couple employees. Never hire friends, never hire family. Doesn't work. I've done it too many times. I'll never do it again. That's a tough dynamic. There are people out there that can make it work. There are families that can. Usually those families, though, are multi-generational. One of the things that we didn't talk about during the startup first week of this segment is that I had a business partner when I started in Hastings selling semi-trucks, not the pickup part, was referred to me by a family member. That proved to be the best mistake I ever made for a number of reasons. But 7 months into the venture together, I was already drawing up papers to buy him out or for that person to buy me out because it wasn't working. 7 months in to a 50-50 partnership, and I learned, talk about tuition to the school of life, I learned that the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. Some people can make it work, and kudos to them, but I am not one of those people. And I think it's super important to be cognizant of that and to be okay with it. It is okay. I'm proud and solidified in my statement to say that I am not an easy business partner to work with. But it's because I'm 90 miles an hour in one clear direction. The business partner I started with was not. They had another enterprise that took 90% of their time. So one guy was working 80 hours a week and one guy was working 10. Doesn't bode well for starting a company. Finances played a big part of it. I had a little more disposable income at that time to invest in the company. That person didn't. I was not married at that time, didn't have a spouse. That person was. That spouse was very bold. That did bode well for the company. And so 7 months in, I bought him out of the company. And then at that time, it cost me a small amount of money today, but back then it was a big amount of money, and that was a mistake I'll never make again. I'm glad it happened because now I know going forward. But the mindset, definitely changes. So I think that's a lesson I've learned, is just to be, when you enter into a contract with a business partner, an employee, or a client, you have to be so clear it hurts. You have to be crystal clear. Leave no gray area. If you buy a truck from us today, you're going to get a one-page document and you have to initial like 7 things on this bill of sale. It's not just here's the bill of sale for your truck. It's, you understand when you buy it, it becomes your property. Our insurance doesn't cover it anymore. Make sure to get your truck or trailer insured promptly. You have to initial that. Well, why do we have to spell that out so clearly? Because we had a problem 4 years ago. Somebody came in, they wrote a check, said, I'll come pick the truck up tomorrow. That night, hailstorm came through Hastings. Their vehicle sustained hail damage.
not my property.
Well, it wasn't. And I tried to turn it into my insurance company, and they said, well, you didn't own it anymore.
Yeah.
So we had a problem. We worked together with that customer at that time, but ever since then, now we're super clear. That's going to be my theme for this segment, is you have to just be so clear and concise with everybody so you eliminate all the problems or any potential problems. Just spell it out, either verbally or on paper, which is even better. You have to be so clear. So
I think that's fantastic advice, because I've heard a lot from alums the past couple months that just like managing people and working with people and communication is hard.
Yeah.
And you never have it completely figured out. It's something you work at every single day.
It's a new situation all the time.
Right. But I think that's great advice, and something that I try to do in my life is just be super clear from the get-go with people that you either hire or that you work with. Just from the get-go, here's what I can offer. Yeah. And there's no, like not offering the gray area is really important. But I think about, in kind of leading into my next question is, what do you wish the alumni, the entrepreneurs, the people running businesses out there listening right now understood about the realities of owning a business?
Well, forget the word balance. You just throw that out the window, flush it down the toilet. It doesn't exist. I think there's three answers to your question. Number one is it takes a team. And I am grateful for the spouse that I do have. My wife, Katie, is definitely strong in the areas I'm not, and is an independent person and can handle our two kids when I need to be at work or I need to travel or whatever. I try to reciprocate that in other ways for her. But I think the team portion is important. Segues into point number two. You have to be brutally honest with yourself about what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes that's super tough to look inside yourself and say, yeah, this part, either of the company or this part of my life or this part of my team, it's not working anymore. You're the business owner. Take charge, lead, fix it. Try something else. You might not get it right the first time, but by the third or fourth time, you'll probably nail it. And so, what I wish somebody would have told me sooner would probably be another way to ask your question. Mm-hmm. I wish somebody would have told me if something's not working, it's okay to change. If you're not happy with a piece or segment of your company, change it. It's yours. It's your machine. It's your baby. It's your piece to mold as you see fit. It's okay if it's not right the first time, but you should always be working towards a perfect model. Will you ever get there? Probably not. But I can look back over the last, I would say, 36 months specifically and point to very significant changes that I made at the company that made us better. I can go back and look at that. And so that's point number two. I wish somebody would have told me sooner that it's okay to make a change. If you're not happy with something or something's not working, fix it. Yeah. Do not just sit here and think that it's going to change it all by itself. The third thing I wish somebody would have told me, and we'll get a little tactical here, is cash flow trumps profitability every time. When you're a one-man band with nothing more than rent, it's not such a big deal. You can chase the profit. When you have 6 people on payroll and a mortgage payment and a wife and kids in diapers and food to buy and all of your employees have families and dogs and car payments and kids and a house, the pressure is it's amplified. Cash flow trumps profitability every time. We're here to survive. We're here to grow. We're here to provide a service and a good to our customers. But we can't do that if we can't make payroll. During COVID, in my industry, and being transportation related, we were deemed, what did they say, essential. We were an essential industry. So we were not shut down. It was wide open. We could conduct business. We could increase our profitability for every single unit we touched because the big political truck dealers on the East and West Coast, they were all shut down, lock the doors, no business, send people home. They had 4 or 5 trucks for sale. we were wide open. Come on in and buy a truck and have a beer on Friday at 5 with us. And we killed it. We knocked it out of the park. Now that the COVID curve has shifted and we're a little bit more back to normal than we've ever been in the past 5 years, now it's about being lean, being efficient, and making sure cash flow is adequate to not just pay your bills, but to solve problems, to fund future growth. And I keep bringing it up, to make payroll. I mean, that's the biggest line item of most small business enterprises, payroll. And I always put my people first. Now, I'm on the payroll too. I'm the second lowest paid person on the payroll, but I'm on the payroll too, so it includes my family. But you have to make sure your people are paid. And so I'm fortunate enough that's not ever been a problem for my company, but there's definitely, it's ebbed and flowed. There's been way more leaner months than some, that's for sure. And I think some people break out of the huddle and experience instant success and maybe not focus that cash flow where it needs to be. Reinvesting in the business, making sure you have, I call it a slush fund. Some people call it retained earnings, right, for future investment and growth, or a rainy day or a mistake. That's something else I wish somebody would have told me sooner, is that you need to have a little mistake fund. There's going to be times where a $5,000 check is going to solve a problem for you or for your customer, and it's well worth it. You need to have that money available.
Right.
Yeah. So there's 3.5. There's 3.5 things I wish somebody would have told me different.
Yeah. Well, man, talking about survival.
Yeah.
I'm really glad, because you gave me a list of lessons and things that you've learned before this. And one of the things you mentioned is just stress.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur until you get stressed.
Oh, man.
Just talk about how you manage stress.
Yeah.
And that,
it's
what
a loaded
that word
question.
even means.
Yeah, it means something different for everyone. And this is probably the least amount of everything we've talked about. This is the one I've got least figured out. I don't have this one figured out. I've got a pretty good idea, but that's going to tie into what I said earlier about figuring out what works. And every different strokes for different folks, right? Everybody's got their own way to recreate, relieve stress, unplug, get your mind off something. I've got a close personal friend. Him and his wife are in a really high pressure company. They're both co-owners in a big firm, and they go hiking and climbing. And once a month, they take 3 days off and they go to a different country of the world, and go and hike something. That sounds like torture to me, okay? That is not something but I think recognizing that, great for you guys, I will Venmo you money to buy a beer on me. I am not coming with you, because that does nothing. That's going to make my stress go up.
Right.
I think to put it in perspective and give you an example for me, I know, once a month, my wife and I have to get out of the house and have a kid-free weekend, and whether that my wife likes a country music concert. So the reason I'm here today is we're going to Cody Johnson tonight, and so that was something big for us. But we try to travel in the wintertime. Stress and my job goes up in the wintertime because of weather-related things, and so we try in the wintertime to go spend a week in Arizona and just be in the sun where it's 70 degrees and no rusting vehicles and no trucks that won't run in the cold. And I've recognized that, it costs money, but I come back and I'm recharged. I make better decisions. I can look at things from a bird's eye perspective. So I think no matter what that is, you have to be really realistic with yourself. You have to unplug and you have to get away. When you're first starting, there is no balance. It doesn't exist. It doesn't happen. Work 18 hours a day, 16 hours a day, whatever the case may be. Then you hire your first employee and you think, oh, now I have time to do my personal stuff. That's not always the case, because you spend the first hour of your day training them on what to do with the next 7 hours of their day. And so it's a nominal relationship, right? It's never a direct relationship. But I think recognizing the stress, not letting it get to a level that's unhealthy. I'm guilty of that. I can look back over the past 8 years and point to 2 specific times in 8 years where it got to an unhealthy level. And eventually someone else in my circle was smart enough to pull me back in the realm and say, this isn't working, find another way to deal and to cope. And I think, going back to that word clear, I think the more clear you can be with your employees, your customers, I think the easier and less stressful running a company can be. But no one tells you about the daily struggle, seems like a bold word, but the daily wear and tear on your mental capacity that owning a company is, whether that company is 100 people or 5 people. Employees are stressful. Customers who are unreasonable are stressful. Government agencies that impose regulations on a business who pays their taxes on time and everything is stressful. And no matter how I plan my day out, it never goes according to plan. I can have a good idea of what I'll do that day, but there's things that pop up in the day, and as an entrepreneur, your job is to tear down obstacles for your team to succeed. Whether I'm doing the work or my guys in the shop are doing the work, it doesn't matter. That's my job, is to clear the path for the company as a whole to move one piece down the boardwalk. That's the whole goal. And so that is a stressful experience at times, sometimes more than others. I think some people use that, however, to push the limit on taking time off, upon prioritizing my mental health. Okay, mental health is important, but do you need 3 mental health days a week? Probably not. So I think some of that is to be met with a little bit of grit, right? Which is the most important pillar to me in my heart is grit, because you do have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and actually do the work. You can't use that as a crutch. Well, at the same time, recognizing when things get stressful, you have to hit pause, take a step back. The work will be there tomorrow. It is okay to put the wrench down and go home. It will be there tomorrow. Sometimes you got to bust ass and get her done. But most of the time in those situations, it'll be okay if you do it tomorrow.
Speaking of grit, my last question.
Yeah.
And I actually have this one written down, which is kind of crazy. What does grit mean to you today compared to what it meant to you?
Yeah.
10 years
back
ago, 12
then.
years. Yeah,
Yeah,
back then.
That's an exciting question. Until coming to the Angler program, the word grit to me was only defined in the John Wayne movie, True Grit, because my grandpa and that whole family raised us kids on John Wayne movies. And so when the little lady says, I'm looking for a man, Rooster Cogburn, I heard he has true grit. And when I would ask my grandpa what that meant, or, he'd look things up or different ways, it was always just passion and, stick a chaw in your mouth and go down and just get her done factor, right? Larry the Cable Guy. And so that's all I thought it was just work ethic. I thought that's what grit meant. So then you come into 101 with Tom, and you talk about grit in a little bit different light. And I don't think that grit is a singular instance. If you have a tough time in your life, in your business, in your personal life, whatever, and you get through it, that means you have grit. But the word grit to me today means surviving the daily challenges. And when you have 10 things on your plate and life gives you another one and you think this is it, I can't handle any more, but somehow you get through it, and you start crossing items off your list, or you pick up the phone and enlist the aid of friends, family, or coworkers. That to me is what grit means today. The fact that you have enough audacity, tenacity, and work ethic and passion, but to survive the daily ins and outs, the ups and downs, and to do it for a year, then year 2, now year 8, going on year 9. I think that overlays into a lot of different areas in life. Marriage is another one. You have to have grit to work through. I mean, my wife and I both have active careers, physically active. I'm in Texas. She's over here doing this, whatever. It takes a lot of grit to push through some of that stuff and be okay with asking for help. And whether that's babysitting or whether that's somebody to drive a truck, it doesn't matter. But I think the word grit means a lot of different things. But today it definitely means something different. And back then, I really thought it was just a one-time deal on a movie. And today I try to embody it as much as possible, because without grit, I don't know how anybody would survive being in business. Life is tough enough the way it is, and you add being an entrepreneur on top of that, and it takes some grit, that's for sure. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have the 100% of that grit, but I must have enough, because we're still here 8.5 years later, and I don't have any plans to give it up anytime soon.
Well, love to hear that, first off, and just very thankful to hear your advice. I think about survival, and I think about paying tuition to the School of Life, and I think about all of the things and the lessons that you've learned over the course of the past 8 to 12 years. And it's really exciting to sit in this chair and to hear from you as also a fellow alum, but I feel like a student sometimes to you. Just, I think of...
Is that an age joke?
No,
Let's be honest here.
No, that is like you're light years ahead of me. You know, I got a lot to
I feel
out.
it too.
And just very thankful to just sit in a chair with you and talk about life and to talk about your experiences. There's been not enough moments where I've been in the room with you, and so just to sit here today, I'm very, very thankful.
I appreciate the opportunity. I think people need to have more of this. I hope, I love that, you know, in the digital age we're in now, people will be able to look back on this and all of your other podcasts. And my goal always, whenever I give a speech or give a talk or mentor somebody, my goal is to try to give them a dozen eggs, and hopefully one of them makes sense.
Yeah.
I try to provide them with all of the lessons and information, and hopefully out of this huge basket of stuff, 1 or 2 things resonate and could help them in the future. And with the digital age now, they'll be able to look back, and hopefully one thing the crazy truck guy said made sense. So that's my goal. If that happens today, I've accomplished what I came here to do.
Well, it's happened for me. It's happened for me when
Excellent.
I was a student sitting at the table learning about Blue River Trucking, digging your brain about SEO and that kind of stuff when I was just a learner. But very thankful. And I know the entrepreneurs and the other alums listening are driving to work or whatever they're doing right now, and they're going to hit their day, and they might be paying tuition today, but they also might just need to hear a little bit of grit.
There you go.
And I'm excited for them. So thank you so much for joining
us.
us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time. Maybe.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks.